So anyway, so I was walking down the path and I could hear this rustling sound and footsteps from behind me. Next thing I know, a Victoria sponge jumps out of the hedgerow, starts having a go at me. I wrestle it to the ground. What could I do? I had to eat it. Anyway, that's my story of being ambushed with cake this week. So
seems to be a lot of that going on.
Yeah, very, very belligerent cake out there at the moment. It's thankfully we all know somebody who can deal with that.
Us,
yes. We are putting ourselves forward. If you are experiencing cake ambushes at the moment, then contact this number and we will come out there and we will keep you safe. Absolutely. We don't want anybody getting ambushed with cake. So, gentlemen.
Indeed.
Anyway,
unless that cakey ambush results in severe harm, then we're all for that type of cakey ambush, aren't we?
That was all a bit early 1980s British comedy, wasn't it?
It was
that was all a bit what's it called presents.
Yeah, that was all a bit.
It's starting to feel like this country is being run by the goodies.
No, I'm not having that because I've got the Goodies box set to watch, and I love the Goodies. So I think we should move on now. I can hear them up in the gallery. They're doing this. They're going. Oh. So
yes.
Anyway, hello everybody. Welcome to the Interesting Modelling Company Midweek Ambush. We have with us tonight Mo and Dave. Didn't we? All right, Drew. Didn't we have fun on Sunday?
We had I see Ivan's already chucking peanuts from the gallery there. Yes, we had a thoroughly splendid evening. And it was a shame you couldn't make it, Spence, because I think you'd have really enjoyed it.
I have actually watched it all the way through.
Have you?
You'll be happy to hear. Yes, I did. I watched it on Monday morning and went through it, and it looked like it was a really good chat. It was very entertaining and very informative, as I expected it would be. To be fair,
we will definitely do another one at some stage. So big thanks to Scott, JB, and Ivan for kind of co-hosting that with us. That was tremendous fun. So
I think it's important we don't talk about that for too long before actually doing it again.
Yeah, we do tend to do that a bit, don't we?
Yeah, I think we need to do that again
very, very soon.
And that right soon, yes.
So what have we all been working on this week then?
Who's going?
I was waiting for you. I like the pregnant pause. That adds a
well, everybody's looking to see who can be.
I mean, most entertaining.
Shall I go or you? Go on, Spence. Oh no, after you, sir. After you.
Well, I've just finished the Little Chipmunk. That's been my pleasurable diversion this week, which I've really enjoyed. Finally got it done. It was a quick build. It was I think I only spent about a week on it, and didn't really sort of go too much to town on it. But it was I added some Edward bits and pieces and all of that kind of thing. I have to say, other than those wings, which now are very kind of well documented, it's a fabulous little kit. It really is a lovely little thing, and it's really good fun to build. It's one of those airplanes. There's so many color schemes that you can put with this thing as well, and it's kind of legendary in that, and not just kind of military subjects. Obviously, the four choices in the kit are all British subjects, 2 originals, 2 sort of from kind of legacy flights, if you like. But there are lots and lots of colour schemes for them, in lots of civilian colour schemes and foreign operators as well. And I'm assuming at some point, because there are parts in the kit that aren't used for the 4 versions, that there will be a secondary or 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th release of that aircraft. So it's a really, really nice kit. John, you can pull the pictures off my wall if you want to use those.
Yeah,
You're more than welcome
yeah,
to do that. So yeah, just pull those down. So it really goes well together. The wings, the curve on the wings, because of the misplaced pin, is a bit of a bind, it has to be said. And it did. I sent these two a number of photographs of me trying to straighten those wings out, including trapping them between a very large pile of kit boxes on the top of a shelf, just to make sure that they were straightened out. It's not hugely difficult, it just needs to be done, really. And then,
well, I think I recall you saying it took a bit more than just removing the pins.
It did, yeah, because what you've got on, if you read about this kit, there's a pin on the upper wing surfaces that goes into a locating hole on the full span lower wing. And if you read about it, if you snip that pin off, then glue the wings together, it solves that curve. Except it doesn't solve that curve, because that curve is still almost sort of built in because of the way that other things on the wings are created. There are, along the leading edge of the wing, leading into the wing root, there are little, I don't know what they are, little...
Oh, the stall strips.
Strips, that's the word I was looking for. There are little strips, and those strips fit into very small cutouts on the lower wing. And then you've got the wingtip lights, again, fit into cutouts. So both of those things hold the wing in a certain place. So you have actually 3 things that need to be adjusted before the wing will settle itself down. And that's what I kind of found with this, really. Even though I sort of put them together and I looked at them from the front, I could still see that there was that curve in there. So things needed to be notched out slightly before they would go together. It's a very odd thing to have to deal with in a modern kit, where something like that fouls that shape the way that it does. But really, that's kind of the only thing that's an issue when it comes to the wings, and it does need a degree of fettling and a degree of sort of strapping down. It reminded me of an old modelling article from back in the day, where the modeler who was writing the article had said they'd strap the wings to a flat surface on the bench to hold them straight. I can't remember what the article was now; it's gone. But I remember that happening and thinking, yes, that's probably what's going to happen in this case. The thing with this model is it's really tiny. It's not. It's not a very big airplane. And those kind of things are noticeable, so they do need to be corrected. Beyond that, there's very little in there that causes you any kind of issues, really. It's very much a sort of almost a shake and bake kind of kit. Some people have spoken about the kit and made comments about the sliding canopy. The sliding canopy on this kit is made in 3 parts. 3 clear parts, and then there's a strengthening, there's a rib that goes between the rear, like a spar that goes between the rear of the canopy, and it then sits onto a jig that basically sets all of the panels at the correct angles before you glue it together. Now, I've had a conversation over the last couple of days. Why have they done it like this? Why is that like that? It makes it really faffy and tricky to do. Do we have to keep, can they not, with all the molding technology, could they not do it in one piece? Well, a number of things. One is that the way the canopy is designed allows the blown section of the side panels to be recreated. There are very, very subtle bubbles in that canopy.
You could see in that last photograph, actually, one reflection.
You can sort of see, and that allows that to be created. The other thing it allows is 2 different patterns of side panels. There's one pattern that's used for the 4 in this kit, and then there's another pattern that will be used for for presumably other variants. I think one's got a split panel and the other ones haven't, from memory. And so the first thing is it allows that flexibility by having those side panels. The second thing is the blown shape. You can't mold that blown shape in one piece without putting a seam down the middle of the canopy. And what that does, it would be almost impossible to clean that up, because that seam down would run through not only the glazed panels, and there's 3 or 4 of them that go over the top of over that canopy, but there are then the framework. So you'd have to clean the frame up, you'd have to clean the glazing up. It would be almost impossible to do that.
Yes.
So
it's rather busy. It's rather busier than an F16 canopy, isn't it?
Yeah, and the comment was made, well, you know, we have these problems with F16s and everything. Yeah, you do, because they're double bubbles. All of these modern canopies, they flare out as they're going round, and then they curve the other way. So they are double curves. The most obvious, I guess, is the AV8B. That's the most pronounced shape. But F16s, F15s, F18s, all the teen series aircraft have got those shapes.
Yeah, it's funny how it's disappeared recently on things like the F22 and F35, presumably for stealth reasons, because you know, there's an obvious trap at the bottom of the canopy, an obvious reflective trap at the bottom of the canopy. So if you look at the F35 and the F22, they're actually they don't have that they don't have that Omega shape.
Yeah, which is and Omega. That was a very good description. I wish I'd used that yesterday while I was sleepily trying to answer.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'll use that, and I will give you suitable recompense at some point. Anyhow, but yeah, really nice kit. I'd certainly build another one, but maybe wouldn't use all of the Edward parts. I have to say that the Edwards, I used a big Ed set on this, which actually was really good value. It was about 18 quid or something, and it supplies you with canopy masks, which I think are, you know, I just buy canopy masks these days for something like that. Almost. Canopy masks, there's an etch set in there that deals with cockpit internals, but it also offers parts for the open cowlings, and then it offers seat straps. If there's anything in that kit that is worth having apart from the canopy masks, it is the cowling panels. The cowling panels in the kit are really heavy-handed. They're not detailed on the inside. They're very thick. They've got ejector pin marks actually on the inside of each part as well. So certainly if you are intending to build a kit and you would like to detail it, I think that those parts are well worth having, because they make a huge difference to the way that the model looks. The only thing that pushes it maybe slightly up into a more advanced level for those cowling panels is that they're actually etched like as a folding section like that.
Oh yes,
so you've got the hard panel here, and then this bit on this side that folds over onto it is the ribs. And what you have to do really is glue the ribs in place and then curve the panel. But by curving the panel with the ribs in place, you get quite a distinct ribbing on the outside of the brass, so which needs a little bit of kind of sanding and polishing out to make them a little bit sort of flatter than they are.
But if you're not doing, but if you're not doing those cowling panels open, you're good to go with the kit.
You're good to go. Absolutely, yeah. If you don't want to show the engine off, you are good to go. And actually, in some ways, because of getting everything to line up and everything to fit in that section, that would probably be the easy way to do it. I think if I was going to do another one of these models, I would definitely do it like that. So
we were talking about canopies. I did see a comment last week somewhere out there on that internet. And it was the Tamiya Tomcat, the 48 scale Tomcat, about why is there a seam down the middle of the canopy? Tamiya could have molded that without putting a seam down the middle of the canopy.
No, they couldn't.
No, exactly. No, apparently they could. They could. How? They just could. And it's like, right.
No, you're going to have to back that up with a bit more evidence than they could, I'm afraid.
How would they do that and get it out of the mold?
That's the question that would need to be asked. The only possible way you can do that sort of thing, it relies on the canopy being a certain shape, so it will slide out of a mold. But if that slides out of a mold, you're then going to destroy the detail on the framing and stuff. So at this point, until somebody can design a piece of metal that will stand up to 100,000 injection cycles and be able to be flexible enough to be bent out of the way, you can have a thing. That's the end of it.
I think that's going to. I'm not sure that that's going to happen, really. But
I would never say never, Spence. I honestly, I wouldn't with the way engineering advances. But at this point, that would be a technology that is, at the bleeding edge for 15 or 20 years, and then model manufacturers pick it up.
They're going to be inflatable molds, right? Made out of a bit like made out of a flexible material, a bit like the tires on a Valkyrie. And then what you do is you inflate it up to pressure, then you inject the plastic into that part, and then you deflate it, and it comes away, and there's your canopy. Perfect.
Yeah, and that canopy will only cost you £350.
I mean, I think the problem with the canopy debate is, for a lot of people, is that it is quite a specialised skill within model making itself, isn't it? Taking a clear part and removing that, even if it's a relatively minor seam, like on the F14 Tomcat is a good example of that. That seam line is about as fine as you're ever going to get on a canopy. So to remove that and to polish that up is something that has to be practiced. That's a skill that needs to be developed. I would argue that if you are building a kit like that and you don't have the skill to be able to do that without destroying the canopy, leave the seam alone. Just, don't worry about it.
Especially in the Tomcat, where the front and rear clear parts have got a large aerial going through the centre line anyway, on the inside for sort of 60 or 70% of that canopy's centre line, each clear part centre line. There's a large, I think it's an aerial of some description actually inside the Tomcat canopy, so you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. But dealing with canopy seams is one of those things that it's not difficult, but what it does require is care and attention. It's like you have to sit down. You don't just do it as part of a modeling session when you're doing other stuff. You have to go in and say, right, for this modeling session, I'm going to clean that canopy up. That's my job here, to do that. And you need to have the right tools.
You do, and that's it. It's quite a specific set of tools, isn't it? I mean,
people who say they use, people are saying, oh, all you need is some 1500 grit wet and dry and some toothpaste. It's like, no, you really can. And I'm always on the search for new stuff. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, just last week, I got from Plaza Models in Japan that's God Hand's foam sanding sticks, going from, I think it's 2,000 to 10,000 grit, because they look really good and I'll check them out. And some Tamiya Tri-Tool ceramic compound, which is like a polishing. See it being used on. I saw it being used on that Mini. That guy's building a Mini on the on YouTube, the grey Mini, and I just thought, okay, let's go on Plaza Japan and see what it is. And I think I got 2 sets of that and a bottle of that, and paid about £21 all in for it all.
Did you have any, just quickly, Drew, before we sort of go off on a tangent? Was that all in? You didn't pay any additional costs?
No, that was all in. That was all in. It took I ordered it and it turned up in about 10 days from Plaza Japan. I think these days, Spencer, I generally, when I order from anywhere that isn't Great Britain these days, because we're isolated, I kind of factor in whether I would be happy to pay the VAT and deliveries and stuff before I order, and if I would be happy to pay it because I'm still making enough of a saving, or it's still something that's niche enough not to be available elsewhere. Philip, I don't have the links. You just have to go on Plaza Japan and search for polishing stuff. I did it 3 weeks ago. So I kind of just go on Plaza Japan and did a search, and they were both on there.
I got to say, going back into wibbly wobbly effect here, going back 5 years, and I built my Tamiya Tomcat. 5 years. I got rid of the mold part line on that with just one of those nail buffing sets you get from Poundland. That was it. It was just like, because it's 4 abrasives, and it's like sand, kind of like sand, polish, shine, sand, polish, buff, shine or something, and I just did that, and that worked fine.
Yeah, I think it's horses for courses with that, but you still have to learn how to do that. And
exactly.
And also learn how to do that without breaking it. Essentially, isn't it? More than just the polishing aspect of it, because sometimes you can be working on that seam line and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, so you work harder on it, and clear plastic is fragile and it will crack. Ask us all how we know that. I am pretty sure.
Yeah.
Ask us how many of us at some stage in the past used Brasso to polish canopies and then wondered why they cracked and fell apart.
Yes, indeed. Hey, speaking of cracked and fell apart, I was hunting for some parts up in the loft today and came across a Dragon Whirlwind that was in like a pile. In there, that it had got a set of DS tracks. I don't know if you guys know what these tracks are. They're the yellow tracks
after a few years, aren't they?
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know how long this kit's been up there, but it's obviously there's temperature variations and all that sort of stuff. And they were sealed into like a plastic bag that holds them. So I thought, oh god, that Whirlwind looks good. It's got Zimmerit on it and all that kind of thing. So anyway, so I took the bag out with the tracks in. I thought, oh, look at those. And I went and I sort of bent them like that, and they shattered, literally shattered in the bag. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I then rubbed my finger down one end, and I literally turned those tracks into dust by rubbing them between my fingers like that. And I do wonder how many other people have got kits with those DS tracks in.
I can remember seeing a thread somewhere a few years ago where there was a lot of models being put up that had been built a few years before, and the tracks had just turned into dust. It's almost like, I don't know if you used to have, when you used to just get as many carrier bags as you wanted when you went shopping, if you put them in a drawer for a couple of years, they would just turn into a dust.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they? And it kind of feels exactly the same as that. It's another one of those great ideas, but they unfortunately they couldn't sort of stress test it for 10 years before they stuck them in the box.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know. I'm assuming that it's some form of vinyl, that DS, but it was gluable tracks, wasn't it? They were gluable tracks. I think Tamiya, they played around with gluable tracks for a little while, and now they just do link and length tracks, which to me are far more preferable anyway.
Oh, I mean, I know some people like individual links, but for me, link and length are just it's just a complete no-brainer. If a kit has link and length, especially, and I have to give particular props here to my experiences with Tamiya and Zvezda, in that they both make exactly perfectly fitting link and length tracks.
Yeah. I mean, over the years, I've probably built dozens and dozens of armor models that have got individual track links. I remember when Dragon first came out, I was getting doing reviews of kits with individual links, just driving me completely mental. And then when the link and length stuff, the KV2 is the latest one that I've done. That's got link and length tracks. And when you look at that, when it's weathered and it's got a dust and all of those kind of things in, I don't see any, personally for me, I don't see any benefit for that model. Wouldn't look better with individual track links. It simply wouldn't. And for me, there's not enough of a payoff from having the appearance of individual links compared to the time it takes to put them on. I mean, there's plenty of kits out there, Sherman's in particular, that have got individual links, and then they've got the end connectors, and you've got to make each track link, you've got something like, I don't know, 180 parts per one run of tracks. Honestly, life is far too short.
Yeah, I'm exactly. I've got a collection of armor kits that I'd really like to build, but I just can't bring myself to dedicate 15 or 20 hours of time just to building a couple of runs of track.
No,
I mean, there was in the early 2000s when the Tamiya Leopard 2A5 2A6 was out, you could get I got a few sets of HKCW tracks and built them, and then eventually I went on to, I think it was Rainbow 10's website at the time, and just ordered 5 or 6 sets of Tamiya you know,
to
be a tracks for them because they are fantastically detailed and they look fine on the model and they're flexible.
My slight worry at the moment is if what's happened to those tracks in that Whirlwind are anything to go by. I've got 2 Dragon Jagdpanthers that I want to build, an early version with Zimmerit on it and then a later G2, and both of those have got DS tracks in them and everything. And I don't want to be building one of these models and find out at some point down the line that they start to disintegrate.
Yeah, I mean,
I've already started looking at individual track links against my much better judgment, so that I can build a Jagdpanther.
Yeah, I mean, you can find some of the printed resin ones now just click together, don't they?
They're
perfect click together
as well.
Yeah. I mean, I used to like some Frawl model stuff. But as Jim there says, you have to drill all the pinholes. You never used to have to do that.
No, you didn't know.
With Frawl model, it just used to, they were pretty much, 75-80% of those tracks were just clear. The holes were clear, and you could just literally, it took an hour. I remember building a complete run of Merkava tracks many years ago, and it took an hour.
Yeah, I remember
it was literally just popping it through, clipping it off, pop it through, clip it, and that's how it went. I wasn't spending, getting the right size drill and spending 2 or 3 minutes each time just drilling the holes through.
Yeah, I certainly had that with the last set of Frawl tracks I used was a Tiger 1, and it was the same there. And with a set of pliers and the length of the wire, you could force it through. And then just work on to the next one, force it through. So I would just cut a whole set of like the pins, and then just boom, 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 and then you'd have it all kind of laid out. It's sort of funny. I know a lot of modelers find it really therapeutic doing tracks, and you kind of switch off and you do that sort of thing. But it's and I think David Parker, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, he's obviously showing all of the bits and pieces he's been doing on his 16th scale Panzer IV that he's been working on now for 6 years and 9 months in total. But a couple of days ago, he posted some photographs, and he's finally put tracks on it, and he's put some T-Rex resin, I think they're resin tracks on those. They looked absolutely out of this world on that model, and when you see them like that and you see the detail that you get from those individual links, you certainly can see the attraction, but they're definitely not something I want to.
I think it's ultimately, I've seen people do that, and they've used free model tracks, and they've gone to all that pinning and everything, and then they've slapped mud on them. And it's just like, right, okay. I know we tend to be a little bit flippant with the old hide it with mud kind of jokes on here, but to be honest with you, sometimes, I mean, I've been building some stuff recently, some of the Italeri stuff where it comes with rubber band tracks or it comes with Lincoln length, and I've just used the rubber band tracks because they did the job. They were gluable. They did the job, and by the time you've kind of like shoveled them with weathering and everything, it just, No,
I mean, I like I say, certainly with people like Tamir and Zvezda's Lincoln length, they're not only they're my preferred option if they're there, but generally speaking, they're the only option that there is there nowadays. I think that individual link tracks, however they come, generally tend to look absolutely fabulous. But for me personally, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's just not worth that the amount of time you spend on them. I'm always just sat there getting impatient and thinking I could be doing something else on a model that I want to do.
Interestingly, when I was the editor of Military In Scale, I used to keep up to date with all of the sort of the developments within Aftermarket and all of that kind of thing. And I used to have a pretty good knowledge of what was out there. Because I'm sort of out of the loop of building armor these days, I build the odd vehicle for Marcus, but my sort of model making tends to be aircraft related. So I don't really get too involved with building armor. But I occasionally I'll pick a subject and I think I quite fancy adding a bunch of stuff to this. It astonishes me these days how many aftermarket choices that there now are for the most mundane of details on models, on armor. It's if I'm bewildered by the whole thing and this is my job And I'm looking at these these sort of ranges and thinking, Lord, you know, take the Ad Panther as a good example of that. If I want to update that with some tracks and some, you know, barrel and some etch and figures and all of that kind of thing, I could be going through dozens, maybe even hundreds of possibilities for those kind of things. If you pick a wheeled vehicle, you start looking at sort of modern Russian trucks and looking at the possibilities for replacement wheels and details and all this kind of thing. You know, it is extraordinary. If you want to build highly detailed military vehicles, your chances of doing that now are extraordinary. You could spend a year on one model just adding details to it, and you know, it really
and
is.
Some people do.
And some people do, yeah.
And some people do. I mean, I think those kind of results are always spectacular, but I always look at it as well and think that's not why I build models.
No.
Yeah.
You know, shall we make tracks?
It's like
shall we make tracks? See, pun, to what you've been doing this week, Drew?
Oh, I've just been
Ta-da!
the armor. Let's see if I can bring that in a little bit. So this is the Armour Hobby Mustang, which, as you can see, I'm just masking off to do the white areas on this. Having got the main colours on the last couple of days. All the main colours were mixed, by the way. I decided to mix black and white and chuck a little bit of blue in it to make the neutral grey. Because I always feel that neutral greys that you get in tins tend to look a bit too dark to me.
It is quite a dark colour, actually.
Yeah, but you look at it sometimes in photographs, John, and it doesn't look dark at all. It doesn't look that much darker than medium sea grey in a lot of photographs. So I actually like, I'm not going to get into a scale colour debate, but on something like this, I actually like it to be a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And the top side colour, well, olive drab is mixed from black and yellow. So that's black and yellow mixed together.
Weird.
To get the colour I like. I think I added a couple of drops of clear green into it as well, just to tint it slightly towards the green, if you like. But yeah, olive drab, it's the same, and yellow zinc chromate, it's the same. It's just black thrown into a yellow base color. The only thing that makes it zinc chromate is the additional of aluminium powder. So yeah, that's they're all mixed colours, and I'm just masking off to spray the whites, spray the white at the moment. So I can't say enough good things about this model.
I was going to say, what are your experiences of this Armour Hobby?
Oh, it's just, I honestly, next level. Next level.
Yeah,
if you imagine, in talking of 70-second scale kits, if you can imagine the for instance, the Edward Focke-Wulf 190 or Spitfire Mark 8, 9 in 70-second. Imagine that dialed up to 11. And you've got the Armour, the Armour Hobby Mustang. It is truly, truly next level. Absolutely flawless to build. No, actually, that's not true, is it? Because we discussed the vertical tail and stuff that I had a little bit of fettling to do on that. Which just kind of proves it's a model rather than being particularly taxing, if you like. But yeah, you can see it's a tiny little thing, isn't it? It's a 70-second scale fighter, isn't it? It's you know, a tiny little thing. But yeah, absolutely, truly next level.
So even in comparison to Edward's 70-second scale Spitfires, those kind of kits, do you think it's better than those?
Yeah, better.
Wow.
Yeah. I absolutely do, Spencer. The rivet detail is arguably better.
Wow.
And it's raised and recessed detail as a rivet detail.
Yeah, I read that you'd put that on something, and I was kind of taken by the idea that's what they.
It's not. It's in areas like some areas of the rear of. Well, let's go back to some areas like the rear of the control surfaces and the flaps have got little raised areas of rivets, and this area here, the fuel tank area behind the wing that's got all those rivets on it. They're all recessed except for the borders where there's a double row of raised rivets, but they are absolutely tiny and just absolutely perfectly reproduced.
Wow.
It's spectacular. It really is spectacular.
So we're almost looking at your kit of the year already then, and we haven't.
Well, you kind of.
You say that
it's certainly going to be. It's going to be in the running. I would be surprised if it's not something really, really special. Certainly in 70-second scale is going to have to happen between now and the end of the year for it not to be probably top 3. It'll probably be number 3, and number 2 will be their P51D when that reaches us later this year.
I'm about to sort of test what other people had said, because obviously my kit of the year for last year was the Pucara, and a lot of people had said to me, "Yeah, but you've not built the OV10 yet. When you build the OV10, you might change your mind."
Yeah, but to my mind, Spence, it has to go on a kit you've built in that year.
Yeah. So what's going to happen now is that now that the Chipmunk's finished, my next build for work is the OV10 Bronco. So I'm actually going to be putting that sort of theory to the test to see how that OV10 compares to the car.
Talking of which, I did get that last week.
Yeah. Yes. And I believe as well that you're actually switching your brain into Pucara mode, aren't you? So you're
I was just thinking about that just now when you were talking about the the ability for armor modelers to get incredible amounts of detail. I put together a shopping basket in Hannants of Pucara detail sets and stuff.
Whoops.
And I haven't sort of pressed the button, but I could easily spend 100 quid.
Yeah.
I could easily spend on because Black Dog are doing a complete range of like exposed engines and cannon bays and I don't. I mean, anybody who knows how I model, I generally like to model quick, get the just it's the shape of the aircraft I'm interested in. But for some reason on the Pucara, I really fancy going to town and having an exposed engine and avionics bays and the cannon bays and all that sort of stuff, and putting the Quinta cockpit decals in and getting some aftermarket seats. And I still want to do ZD485, the British one. I'd still like to do that for preference, but I just think it would just make a really nice subject. And you like the kit. I mean, we were waxing lyrical over the kit before it was released on its appearance. Now you've built it. What are you? It's in your. Was it your kit of the year last year?
It was my kit of the year last year.
Yeah. I mean,
and as we discussed on here when we did our show about kit of the year, that's in the face of Tamiya's F4, which I also built last year.
Yeah.
So it's the Pucara is however you look at it, however you sort of process what a kit is worth in terms of value and goes together well and detail and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I sort of chucked all of those things up in the air, and that's it. But I've had a look at the OV10, and you've obviously built one. I had a look at it a couple of days ago just to sort of basically plan what I'm thinking of doing with that thing, and it is very, very nice indeed. It's really,
and as the Pucara was your kit of the year, the Bronco was my kit of the year because I did build it last year, and that is my kit of the year from 2021. It's just and there's a huge value component there as well. In that model is less than 30 quid.
Yeah, indeed, and I have sneaking suspicion that I may want to do the D when I've
I've actually got the paints en route for the D at the moment because I want to do the US Marine grey green black scheme. I want to do that because I've always really, really liked that scheme. So that is one that I have planned for the year.
I said to you, I'm sort of half joking about it, but you guys know me well enough. Mike Williams is building one of these at the moment, and he's done his in the colour scheme that I wanted to do mine in. But so now I can't bring myself to do it in that colour scheme. I need to create something that's slightly different. So
damn you, Williams.
Yeah, damn you, Williams. So I'm actually thinking of simplifying it and going for one of the pale grey aircraft and do that, because there's a lot of surface detail on that model, isn't there? And I wonder whether or not choosing that option would allow me to bring that surface detail out a little bit. I'm also half thinking about putting it into a vignette as well. So, you know, doing something with in a blast pen.
Yeah, you could make some really interesting Vietnam vignettes with a Bronco, couldn't you?
Yeah, and there's plenty of sort of photographs and having it kind of loaded up and all of that sort of stuff and everything.
Yeah, you could do a lot of very interesting stuff with that. And I think ICM themselves are doing a set for it, aren't they?
They're doing some figures
set, and with the O2, it's going to be with the O2
I have
as well.
To say, the ICM figure sets, I mean, I don't know how much they are. They're almost slightly contradictory when it comes to value for money with those figure sets, because you don't get a lot in those boxes, do you, in comparison to what you get in the kits?
I haven't looked at one. I
so
honestly...
you're getting four or five or six 48 scale figures in like a kind of a kit. I don't know what sort of price they are, but they don't seem to me to be huge value for money in comparison to.
No, I know some people have said that
sets or whatever.
They released a weapon set, didn't they, from stuff that you go on an Invader and stuff, and people were saying that isn't great value for money.
No, it's
and then you get this Bronco release for less than 30 quid, and it's like, yeah, not only is it one of the best kits in terms of tooling and production from last year, it's also one of the best in terms of overall value.
Yeah, it's strange.
You know, I mean, I thought the Pucara was good value. It's only about 35 quid, isn't it? You can pick it up for 35, less than 40 quid.
Got a question come up here from James Ray. I've just been doing some Googling, actually. He says, a general question, are the Armo paints worth the effort of buying? Anybody heard of Armo, or do you mean ammo?
I have to say, I haven't heard of Armo.
No, anybody out there knows what that is, or James, if it's actually ammo you're talking about, we'll try and clarify that for you before the end.
Looking at Dan Wood's comment there, he got the Bronco Cessna 02 and the figure set, and that comes to 50 quid, which again sort of comes out at a really good value package. You know,
yeah, it does.
I mean that Cessna is what, that's 25, 26 quid.
Yeah,
28 quid plus the figures. That's a really good value package. So
I have to say,
ICM are a bit odd.
Yeah, it's strange, and I'm yet to be convinced by those additional figure sets that they are value for money, given what you get in them. I'm open to being convinced, but
I haven't seen them, like I say, so I've got no real knowledge of that.
I think you know, I can feel it in me water. I think ICM in 2023, I think they're going to give us a Cessna Bird Dog in 48 scale. I can sense it. I can kind of
if they do, one thing I can say with some conviction is that I will be building all three of those observation aircraft in Vietnam markings. And I will be collating all three of them into a book. If that
obviously that's just me, kind of like, you know,
spitballing.
Spitballing. I'm playing around with the modelling Ouija board here, and I'm getting messages from the modelling spirit world, and they are saying potentially. I reckon they would. I reckon it will fit the narrative they've got at the moment with the O2, with the Bronco. It would nestle quite nice in there.
I have to say, at the moment, it's without wanting to be too negative, a lot of that's going to depend on what happens in that area of the world this year.
And there is that, yes, exactly, yes. Drew, you also you were saying about that the Mustang might be one of your kits of the year, etc., etc. But where does the IBG 190 fit into that?
Again, it's let's have a look at the. Should we have a look at the D9? Should we have a look at the D9?
Let's look at the D9.
Have a little look at the D9. Let's so yeah, I will take these out of packet.
Take them out
I mean, I think
now.
I paid about 18 quid for each of those. First things first, the decals are by Techmod,
Right.
so you're guaranteed that there's quality there, isn't there? Got a nice etch fret in there.
So that's a $5's worth of photo etch there immediately.
Yeah. And the instructions, it's got a full engine if you want that, if you like that sort of thing. And they're doing a mind-boggling amount of options in this series. You know, lots of different fuselage halves and wing sets and stuff like that. Even the center of the lower wing is different for different variants, even of the D9. And each one comes with three color schemes. So this is, as I said, this one's actually advertised as the early production Cottbus aircraft. So there'll be late production and mid production and all that. They are really going to town with the variants. So a lot of people have looked at the rivets on these and were a bit concerned about the appearance of the rivets. I have to say, once I've got the kit itself in hand, the rivets are absolutely beautiful. It's one of those situations where the plastic doesn't do any favors when you photograph it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm showing it there, and looking at my television screen, I can't see the rivets.
No.
Which gives you an indication of how fine they are. If they were huge and oversized, you'd be able to see them, wouldn't you? And you can't. So yeah, it's all the very, very highly detailed.
Do you think that's modelers catastrophizing again, Drew?
Yes, very, very much so. Very much so. And I'm looking again, and there are rivets and fasteners of different sizes all over it and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's glorious. It's just the Dora 9 is my favorite variant of the 190 anyway, or the Doras, I should say. So there's one fuselage look, and as you can see, they're doing fuselages on individual sprues like that. So I think I'm right in saying they've tooled about 5 or 6 different fuselage halves.
That's dedication for you, isn't it?
Yeah, they've decided they're not gonna mess around. You've got open and closed radiators here. You've got the annular radiator type and the traditional radiator type. Every different variant of centerline tank and bomb and stuff that the aircraft ever carried. It's just, in fact, I'm looking at it. It's the first time I've taken any of the parts out of the bags, and it's even more impressive. So,
first thing that strikes me is that for a 72nd scale kit, this is the just the number of sprues and the parts and everything. This is kind of like it exceeds what you got in the TriMaster kit from 1987. You know,
absolutely, yeah. Oh no, well, absolutely, it does. It's and the thing that strikes me most is the way it's broken down to so many small sub sprues.
Yeah,
which means they can mix and match to do different variants as they want. And then there's
does it have an engine in it, or are my eyes deceiving them?
Yeah, there's an
engine.
There you
go. There's a complete engine sprue.
Wow.
And I think they've done 3 or 4 different engines. So that'll be just a case of putting that in, and that also means that obviously the area through the wheel bay will be fully represented, doesn't it?
Wow.
So the thing is, when that Trumpeter 190 came out in, it's not Trumpeter, TriMaster 190 came out in 1987. I remember, I think it was Jim Wood did a review of it it might have been Sam, and he said it's like Hasegawa, but a highly refined Hasegawa. And it was generally seen, that TriMaster 190 was generally seen as this is the most cutting edge of cutting edge that you can get. But looking at that, it's kind of like we're now getting 72nd scale kits that are beyond what used to be a cutting edge 48 scale kit.
Well, I made this exactly what I said the other day, wasn't it? wasn't it, John, with the Mustang, is that you know, the level of detail in the Mustang, not even 15 years ago, we would have been howling about that level of detail in a 30-second scale kit.
Yeah.
Now it's in a 70-second scale kit, and it does add to your build time considerably, but that's just, you know, that's just the way it goes if you want that level of detail. But you can see there's 3 different spinners just for the D model. So they've sort of identified 3 different spinner designs. I know that there's a variety of different props they've done, and there's 5 or 6 different top cowlings they've done. And so you look at that. So that's the Dora 9, and the other one they released at the same time was the D15, which is, you know, they flew one prototype, so it's largely a what if you like. But it's got, again, it's decals are by Tech Mod. There's still 3 options in it, albeit 2 of the 3 are what ifs. And all this stuff is different. It's all new tooling. It's all, you know, completely new. So that's completely different fuselage sprue, because it's a completely different variant.
Yeah.
And you've got all these. So there's the
upper cows.
There's a couple of different upper cows for this particular variant, and you know, in terms of the sub sprues, there's, you know, there's a collection of stores and stuff that come on another sprue. So this has been, and that is a different engine setup to the last kit. This appears to be about the only common sprue I can find. Oh no, these 2 here, these 2 and the canopies are the only common sprues in the kit. Everything else is unique to this D15 kit.
Drew, did I miss? How much is this kit?
I think I paid about £18 for each of them.
Wow,
is that including postage?
Extraordinary value. For
is that including postage? Yeah, roughly. I ordered a decal sheet at the same time for a Liberator, so it was, I don't know, okay. but let's say I bought 4 of these. I bought 4 of these Focke-Wulf 190s and an 11 quid set of decals, and I paid £90 including delivery. So, you know, I think in similar fashion, to the ICM Bronco, I think picking that kit up as it is in that model for around £20, it's a value package.
Powell sent a message here. He says, "Secret message to Drew. You do realise I'll be due in Poland."
I did consider that the other day. Going forward, my man on the inside.
I mean, but I have to say, I like, as you guys know, I like 70-second scale aircraft. That the Dora 9 appeals to me more than the P51B does, and the reason for that is that you may remember a few years back I built an Edward 190 with all the engine open and everything.
Yes, yeah.
And I would love to do that kit set up that way with all the engine on display. So I may have to have a look and getting one of those kits, because that really does appeal to me. I think I could do something really nice with that.
Again, it's great value for money. It's you know, it is cutting edge tooling. I would say that the rivet detail on that is heavier than the Armour Mustang, but we're talking degrees. You know, if the rivet detail on that Focke-Wulf kit is twice as heavy as the rivet detail on the Armour kit, and it still looks absolutely amazing. That's just, you know, people were, like John says, catastrophizing about the rivets. I've looked at that kit now in the flesh here, and I just think it is a complete non-issue. I think that. In fact, I'm glad it came with them. I really am.
We got a bit of clarification from James Ray here. He says, "My apologies. Armour hobby paints. Now, aren't they just Hataka ones?
Yeah, they're just Hataka paints,
Yeah.
which have got a great reputation. I use a lot of the lacquers, the orange cap range, and they spray fantastically well, as good as any other lacquer paint, essentially.
Yeah, they do 3 lines. They do the blue line, which is water-based acrylics, which are more for brushing. They do the red line, which is water-based acrylics, more for airbrushing, and then they do the orange line, which are lacquers, which really are airbrush only. So I did mostly James. Drew's used them. He likes the lacquers. I have still yet to actually use my.
I have to say, I've used the I have used the red label, the airbrush acrylics as well. Right. And whilst they don't pass my particular stress test for acrylics, in that I have to be able to freehand a fine line with them, because they're acrylics, and that's just the way that most acrylics go. You can't really maintain that over any length of time. As long as you're applying basic colors or masking, even the red line are great paints. You know, you can't do fine freehand work with them, or I can't anyway. You can, but it ends up being more not an enjoyable process. You know, I mean, I free-handed extra acrylics and got a really fine line with extra acrylic, but I didn't enjoy doing it. I did it to prove I could do it to myself. I did it to prove to myself that I could do it, but I certainly didn't want to ever do it again.
Well, I've got those ICM acrylics to try out at some stage for my beautiful little Laffley V15, which I'm still building. I'm still building every evening with a stupid, great big grin on my face, because it is just an absolutely joyous modeling experience. I haven't had much time to spend on it this week, but every time I sit down and start doing other bits and pieces to it, I love it. I love it.
I must say that the ICM paints, I know Mike Williams used those on his V26K Invader and liked them. I've had them and I've tried them, and again, it's just standard acrylics for me. It's that they work, but they're not as hardy as lacquers or Tamiya acrylics or anything like that. And again, I can do it. I just don't enjoy doing it. So if I'm going to sit down and do some airbrushing, I want to enjoy the process, not feel like I'm battling it.
Yes, I might have some acrylic paint news for a future show, but that's what I can say at the moment. But
the Airfix tester set you sent to me are great, John.
Oh, you enjoyed them, did you?
Well, they're fantastic for detail painting, aren't they? Detail brush painting. They're absolutely fantastic. The only other thing I got new this week was the Venom.
Right.
UH1.
Should we save that for Sunday?
John's running out of time again.
I'm sorry about that. We've had an hour. Come on.
John's just not interested anymore. He doesn't like these shows running on anymore.
What a long day.
He used to like it. Now he's all, oh no, we need to cut out.
All right, I'll let you run on.
30 seconds left. Get what you want to say in, Spence.
Right.
He's not indulging us.
Go on. Show us the Venom. Go on.
Oh, dear.
Go on. You want the limelight, matey. You go ahead there.
He's getting all defensive now.
The interesting Mo company.
Yeah. Come on, show us the Venom.
I meant to change that. Oh, am I actually showing the Venom or what?
Show us the Venom. Come on.
Well, there's not really a lot to say. We covered the we covered the AH1Z a while back. But the interesting thing about this is you've got 2 new sprues for all the fuselage parts and the clears, and basically the entirety of the AH1Z kit in there, minus the clear parts. And again, most of the interior of this kit is done with etch, which comes in the kit. So again, I think this cost me about £25-26. And if you like helicopters, I would say yes, it's good value again.
I think we've spoken about this with 72nd, but we are really in a rich vein, aren't we, when it comes to 72nd scale models at the moment? The quality that's out there is extraordinary.
Yes, absolutely.
And the sort of the more that technology pushes the boundaries, the better 72nd scale modeling is gonna be. And certainly the idea that larger scales were more detailed, I think that's actually starting to be proven.
That's been put to bed thoroughly, hasn't it? I mean, in
Proven
Japan
not to
over
be
the last 15, 20 years, I mean, 72nd scale's never gone anywhere anyway.
No.
But now you're seeing 144th scale kits of quite mind-boggling levels of detail and finesse. I think perhaps in years gone by, there was a tendency to be quite Americentric about scales, because 48th reigns supreme in the United States. We kind of look to the United States, and it's never been that way in the rest of the world, shall we say?
No.
In the rest of the world, I would argue that 72nd still reigns supreme.
Yeah, it certainly does in the UK. I think I almost think that there's no doubt about that. I think 72nd.
I think that definitely in the UK and in Asia. The impression I get is that 72nd still reigns supreme. In America, the 48th it reigns supreme, and Europe's somewhere between somewhere between them. So but I definitely think it's a gold edge for 72nd scale.
Now, I've got a question here from. Sorry, I was just going to say, we've got a question here from young Michael of Arizona, and he writes, "Dear Sirs," he forgot the "Dear Sirs" bit, but I know he meant it. He says, "Speaking of paints, Red Arrow's Fallen Nat, Guards Red or Signal Red, which brand do you recommend and go?" Well, Mike, there's the funny thing, is that depending on the era you're modelling, is that the Fallen Nats actually started out in Post Office red. And you can see
they were really quite dark early on, weren't they?
They were, and you can see that in some of the photographs, because there is I think Dave is going to eviscerate me on this, because I'm going to mangle the history of the Red Arrows up here now. But if you look at the very early Red Arrows, the Nats, the red on the leading edge of the fin flash tended to have a black surround to make it stand out from the actual color, because obviously the fin flash is red, is Post Office red. So was the aircraft. But then there are weird color changes within the Nats. Is that some of the men ended up being signal red towards the latter half of their life. But Dave will correct me. But originally they were Post Office red though, Mike. So check your date.
I'll make an interesting observation about signal red, because that's the color of the trim on the Chipmunk, the signal red. And for that, a very good match for signal red, and I matched it against the extra color signal red, which is close too, but is Tamiya's new lacquer bright red is an almost perfect match for signal red. It's got that very slight orange tint to it, and that kind of almost slight sort of fluorescence, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Here we are.
That is an almost perfect match. If I was doing a Red Arrow,
red,
it's bright
LP7?
red. It's called LP50, is it?
Oh, LP50. Right. Okay. LP42. Mica red.
That one.
Oops.
Okay.
All right. Oh, no, I haven't got that one.
That one.
Right.
It's an almost perfect. I don't know if you'll be able to see it on the screen.
No.
Right.
Yeah. It's got to have that slightly kind of orangey cast to it.
That's what it is. If I was to do a Red Arrow, that would be the color I would use. And I looked at it. I'd used it on something else that I've painted. I might have used it on the Tiger Moth. I can't remember, but that is a really, really good match for signal red. Out of the bottle, lacquer paint, do it, boom, forget about it.
Yeah,
forget about it.
Jim asks, reminder.
Dream model. I was just about to answer that. Yeah, dream model.
Dream
model. Yes.
Dream model.
They are pretty much leading the charge for helicopter kits at the moment, I would say. And they're doing some really, really high quality stuff. So recommended.
Perfect.
Well, it turns out that we didn't. The thing that we said we discussed during the show tonight, we never got around to it. So
no, we didn't. Probably a good thing.
just as well, because we'd have just been here blowing. It would have been, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. As the ticker ticked over to 4 hours and 55 minutes.
Yeah,
it was as the ticker turned over to 4 hours and 55 minutes. It was then Spencer's turn.
Yes, yes, indeed. So,
Yeah,
and we'd all be like desiccated, and we'd all be sitting here hungry.
We literally would be like Julian Glover at the end of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He chose poorly, and he suddenly go like that. So
yes, because we hadn't had tea.
Yes, I genuinely haven't had tea. I've not had any tea yet.
What have I? No, I need to have my supper. I've got to do another show in a minute and then have my supper. So,
you see, you can tell that John's posh. He pretends he's from Dudley, but actually he's just a posh southerner. I'm going to have supper.
You're going to have supper. Oh, yeah.
Whereas me and you, Drew, because we're just like scutter pigs.
I've not had tea yet, have we?
Yeah, I haven't had any tea yet. So we have breakfast, dinner, and tea, and he has supper. I'm just going to have some
gentlemen, I don't seem to remember Genesis writing a song called "Dinner's Ready."
No.
Right, there we go.
I'm going to have supper.
Yeah, okay. As arguments go, that's one of the.
That's actually made me feel slightly queasy that he's used that as the argument for.
Do you know what? I'll top that. I'll top that. Make you feel even queasier. Is that 2022 is the 50th anniversary of Foxtrot when it came out. 50 years. This year means that Supper's Ready, Watcher of the Skies, all that has been wafting round this little green-blue planet of ours for half a century.
Anyway, don't forget to cut the crusts off your cucumber sandwiches.
Yes, when he does them in those little triangles.
Yeah.
I don't eat bread. I don't eat bread.
Oh, now he's actually all superior as well.
Little cake stands.
Tim gets it. There we go. Right.
So not only does he use words like supper, he also doesn't eat bread. So he's acting superior as well as posh.
Yeah, absolutely. Supper. Supper used to be a bowl of cornflakes. That used to be supper. Now I didn't realise now it's just a meal.
Look, I have got to get supper ready so I can go upstairs and do ghost stories from the chaise longue. So can we move it along a bit?
Yeah. Supper used to be a bowl of cornflakes or a packet of crunchy nut cornflakes.
Indeed.
Supper used to be crunchy nut cornflakes eaten straight out of the bowl with your hands like popcorn. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it'll be phoning up Nigella in a bit. Can you come round and do me a supper meal, Nigella? You're so posh.
Can't help it, mate. Breeding counts.
Dudley. I think he's made that up, Drew. I don't think he's ever been from Dudley. I think he's always been from Berkshire.
You know what I'm going to do? You know
he's a temporarily embarrassed billionaire from Chelsea.
And he just mixes with us to make him feel more like the common man.
Oh, I definitely mix with you two to make myself feel better. That's true. Yeah. So that's trust me.
Nice.
Yeah.
He's off to examine his investments now because he's got shares, you know.
Oh, he's got a portfolio.
That filthy capitalist pig dog.
You realise you're moving in bourgeoisie circles.
So not only is he has supper, he's also got a portfolio. I didn't realise we were mixing with such elevated gentry on this show.
Oh yeah, he lowers himself to the working classes occasionally.
Does it?
Yeah.
Champagne. Socialism.
There's another couple of things actually, which actually would really infuriate you and blow my cover as kind of like the working class lad from Dudley. But I'm not going to tell you what they are tonight. So
we'll do that off air.
I've got to try and remember what they are. They're that memorable. So, probably I do listen to Radio 3, don't I? So I might,
Oh yes, that's true. You do
listen to Radio 3. Yes, exactly. So anyway, any other business?
No, other than I will have something new to reveal that I'm working on at the moment within the next few days, all being well. That is not to do with work, but is something that I was going to do over Christmas. So I'll leave that hanging there. It's if it works, it might be all right.
So it's hobby based, so it's to do with a hobby, but not to do with work.
I'm actually I have actually got a little 3 or 4 day window in my schedule, so I've actually reverted to the hobby part of my brain rather than the work part of my brain. So I'll hopefully reveal that maybe over the weekend, if not next week. So there you go.
Before or after supper. So,
Drew, should we just go off and do our own thing?
I think,
Any other business, Drew?
No, not from me. Not from me.
You sure?
See you Sunday.
Sure? Yeah. Just a quick public service announcement here. We have been getting reports of this slice of carrot cake has been ambushing people in the Somerset area. If you do see this carrot cake, do apprehend it. Probably best with a fork and a cup of tea, and subdue it, and we will deal with it there. But obviously, this spate of cake-related ambushes, it's got to end. It has got to end, and we're the men to end it.
We're the people for the job.
I have to say that carrot cake did look very.
You know what? I'm just going to tell you. I'll tell you this very, very quickly. This is my any other business. Shush. Is that I went for a walk yesterday with my mate Al, and we ended up going to Burnham on Sea, as you do. And it was going to be like a nice little short walk, just up and down the sand dunes, blah blah blah. Ended up being 8.5 miles. It was absolutely punishing in the end. Anyway, so I went for a walk with a friend of mine today. It's going to be a nice little short walk, probably about 2 miles. Ended up being 5.5 miles. But in the process, I discovered a brand new cafe in a little place called Rington. Never been Rington before. It's literally, I drive past it loads of time. Found a little cafe in Rington. Had the carrot cake there. Very good.
Nice.
Very, very good. Yes. So, you know me.
There we go.
Right, I'm off for a bowl of cornflakes.
Yeah, I might go at market and have crunchy nut.
I'm going to go and see what the staff have prepared for tonight.
Do you know what I've got in the freezer, Spence? It's coming out any second. Fish fingers.
Oh, a fish finger sandwich.
Oh, yeah.
I've got some fish fingers as well. I could do a fish finger sandwich. I might have that, actually, rather than.
Thought I'd catch your eye. I thought I'd catch your eye with that when I mentioned fish fingers.
Fish finger sandwich, maybe with a little bit of melted cheese on and some.
Oh no!
Sliced gherkin.
Fish fingers. What is wrong with you, man? Goodness me! Oh God! I feel nauseous.
I can be as posh as you can.
That's like cheesy chips. That's just so wrong.
What's wrong with cheesy chips? What's wrong with cheesy chips?
Everything's wrong with cheesy chips.
Nothing wrong with cheesy chips.
It's like putting mayonnaise on chips. Goodness
You'll be telling us now that you don't like chips with gravy.
No, I don't like chips with gravy. Goodness me, that's how the Roman Empire fell.
Chips with gravy is the best thing in the world.
No, it's not. It's
absolutely awesome.
Right, honestly, I've now got to go and I've got to exit this show and retch. So on that note, so this is why we do this. On that note, I'd like to say thank you to Drew, thank you to Spencer. We'll be back. Who's back on Sunday then?
Well, I'm here, so
I'm not, unfortunately.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll talk about you behind your back then. So that's fine. So live on air. So on that, it just remains to say thank you, gentlemen. Thank you again to the Plastic Posse guys for last Sunday. That was brilliant. Thank you everybody tuning in tonight. Probably, we have tried to answer as many of your questions tonight as possible. As you see, these things tend to run away with themselves. So until then, as always, from myself and these two. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and we will see you on Sunday. So,
catch you all later.
Bye for now.